This meeting is being recorded.
I heard that. What's up, bro?
Oh, not much.
All right, man. All right. Well, this is another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast with David and Ian. So
Rock.
let's get into it, dude. So one of the athletic directors that we had spoken with, local out here in Ohio, he wanted to hear our take or get our ideas about mental toughness, mental health, maybe gaining a mental edge, not just for players but also coaches. He seems to think that there is an increasing need there, maybe for some guidance, maybe for some ideas, maybe for some new things that we could potentially touch on that worked for us, and maybe share it with the crowd, man. So just kind of segueing into it. There are increasing expectations. There's increasing pressure that players put on themselves, that the parents might put on themselves. Maybe the parents put on their kids. Maybe the coaches and the staff, put on their teams, right? So these players, they want year-round instruction. And when they can't get it at their high school, at their their institution, right? Their team from their coaching staff, they'll go elsewhere, and then they'll find it elsewhere, right? Maybe they'll transfer, maybe they'll take their maybe they'll take their travel league a little bit more serious. Maybe their school team just kind of wanes, right? It's not as serious to them anymore. They're not as engaged. They're not as focused. And, that can lead to a lot of stress. That can lead to a lot of pressure. And dude, the theme of this, what I'm trying to get at, is baseball's hard enough, right? Dude, this, man. It's like the pressure that you put on yourself. Dude, hitting a baseball is hard enough. Throwing a strike, making a guy swing and miss is hard enough. Like, just, how did you keep your mental edge? How did you stay sharp? How were you able to kind of refresh day in and day out? Let's say you have a bad outing, dude. How were you able to wipe it? How were you able to simplify things, man? Just kind of, yeah.
I mean, we've hit on this a little bit, but the game is changing. I think the perception of what a man has been changing throughout culture and society for the last probably 10 years or so. But now at the big league level in professional baseball, college baseball, they have what's called mental strength coaches, right? That was something that really benefited my career exponentially when I got in touch with a mental strength coach. I wasn't always like the most. I mean, I was a confident guy, but not when it came to my skill set in baseball. But being able to hone in on some of the ideas and practices that some of the mental coaches helped me out with, I think was a huge deal. And just like the perception of what a man is today. Like, if you had a bad game in the past, oh, stop being a baby, get over it. They might use some more choice words besides those what I just used, but it helped me a lot to keep perspective. Like, what was good, what could I get out of this, and what was bad. If you're not mad after a game after you just got your butt kicked, then that's probably not for you, right? If you were doing a job interview, or if I gave up 7 runs in the first inning to Salt Lake City Bees or something, I would go back to my hotel and I would stare at the wall. I'd give myself a couple hours, and then I was like, all right, let's go back to work, right? I can remember that like it was yesterday, giving up 7 runs in the first inning, and you look in the dugout almost like, are you going to come help me? But no one's there to help you. Like you're fed to the wolves. And that's something I had to learn probably early in my career, maybe like low A, because I didn't have it in college. And honestly, I might not be the best advice giver for this, because I just decided to work harder than everyone else. The world's not fair. The game isn't fair. You fail 7 out of 10 times. That's hitting 300. You're in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Analytics have changed the game a lot, but if you can somehow take those licks and get back on the horse. I know we've used some cliches in this podcast already, but it's as simple as that. Some of the stuff that really helped me was just taking the good with the bad, and if you got to be obsessed with it. I mean, what were some things that you did? That's kind of a broad
Dude,
example.
so number one, man, I remember that I got serious about actually taking my mental health serious,
Yeah,
just based off of somebody that I looked up to. So I remember so the Mariners, the Seattle Mariners, right, where we first, met each other, started playing with each other. Man, that organization was, at least in my opinion, my experience, the first
no, it's
organization
cutting
that,
edge. Yeah,
yeah, dude, that they were ahead of the game, right? So Andy McKay came in. I think he came
yeah.
in from Colorado.
Hmm.
Man, he's just brilliant dude. Mental performance guy. Um, Took it serious and kind of implemented it from the top down, right? So there were, mental skills guys walking around the complex that were, touching base
And it
with
was new.
everybody.
It was different, right? That you
Yes,
were
dude.
like, hey, and I think, hold on, the best thing that anyone can do is to go seek that. If you think you're too cool for it, if you think you're too polished, your skill set's that much better that you don't need this, like you just said it right there. Like they were walking around the complex, but if you hadn't been like, hey, you got 5 minutes?
Yes.
I need some advice here.
Yeah.
Seek it out.
100%, man. Like you're not the best players in the world take advantage of this stuff, right? Their physical, their athletic ability is tip top. Their mental, I mean, they take that serious as well.
Yeah.
Like you see the work that they put in behind the scenes before the game even starts with batting practice and early work and stuff. But like, dude, you gotta own your craft. You gotta, make your mentals just as strong. In my
Well,
opinion.
how about this? I mean, I lived with you. Were you staying up late, partying, getting crazy all the time?
Nah.
No, right? You were in bed by a set hour. You had your routine, and like we said before, you made it. I think there's a time and place for everything, but during the season, I mean, I still had fun. I went out with the guys. I went to dinners, all that. But if I knew I was up the next day in the bullpen, or to pitch, or starting, like that was it.
That's
Like I wasn't.
priority number one
Yeah,
for sure.
we had a
For
guy named
sure.
Doug Chadwick with the Rockies, and I remember this vividly. It was the year I was about to retire. I called that guy, and it was during the middle of a game. Actually, I was in the outfield. I was not pitching well. I was not having fun, and I went up to Doug. He went to what is the university for military? Um, you know what I
Army,
mean?
Navy.
Army. Sorry,
Okay.
Army.
Yeah.
So he went there, and just a brilliant man, big dude, but he had seen a lot of stuff, and he sat down with me in the coach's locker room, and I was like, I just need someone to talk to, and I asked him for all the answers, and I asked him like, hey, what can you do this? And he was like, I remember this so clearly. He's like, I don't have those. He's like, I don't have those answers, man. I'm still trying to figure that out right now. And I don't know why. I know it sounds so simple, but just someone with the background that, and it might not be as helpful to other people, but just hearing someone that's supposed to have it all figured out, not having it figured out, I was like,
Puts it
oh,
into perspective a little bit, right? You're not
yeah,
supposed to have all the answer.
yeah. And I think that being in double A, triple A, whatever, knocking on the door in the big leagues, you put all this pressure on yourself, organization puts pressure on you, what have you, but you're a human being. You're going to make mistakes, strive to be perfect. Sure, that's awesome. But when the guys that have PhDs in this stuff that can help you with a couple little things here and there, but you still got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Like
For sure.
they're tools.
For sure. 100%, man. I personally I took that meditation more serious as my career kind of progressed. Really started taking it serious around the time that, I had my year that I made it to the big leagues. My first year, man, that was the year that I really took it serious. I prioritized it before I went to the field, man. You
Yeah.
talked about that routine, right?
And how exhausting? Hold on. How exhausting was that?
It sucked.
It sucked, right?
Yeah.
But you got to the big leagues based off of your dedication to that routine.
100%.
kind of, right?
100%. Yeah.
But the
100%.
guys that can get to for the most part, the guys that can get to the big leagues and stay there for 10 plus years, they're a different breed.
Dude,
And it
which was
starts
gonna
at a young age.
yes, it was, dude. It was gonna say I was trying to figure out how I was gonna segue into the next thing, man. So Jamie Moyer, another thing that I did was I kept a notebook of every pitch, every pitcher, every situation, right? So let's go July 27th, 2019. It was the year that I debuted in the big leagues. I had 2 at bats. I was playing Sacramento, AAA for the San
Yep.
Francisco Giants, dude.
Yep.
I had 2 at bats, man. I saw 3 pitches my first at bat. I got a base hit in the 6 hole, right? 91, 93, good sink, 2 seams. Could have been a changeup, right? Didn't see the ball well. Second at bat, Franco. I struck out on 6 pitches all away, all fastballs, right? So I make little, little things, just things like that, right? The little things
Yes.
like that kind of keep me sharp, keep me in the game, keep me focused, right? I write these things down about this pitcher, and then 2 months later I face him. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember what I did
No,
against
that
this
helps
guy.
a lot.
I don't remember what he threw me, but like I have it written down. I know what it looks
Yeah.
like. I know what the mile per hour was. I know what count it was, and that comes from Jamie Moyer. So when I got drafted, I had a personal. My high school coach was good friends with Jamie Moyer, right? So I had access to him. I got a pep talk from him when I got drafted. The congratulatory, man. Well, you'll get out of it what you put into it. He said that, and dude, you know Jamie Moyer, right? The lefty, he's throwing 80 miles an hour and he's pitched 20 years, right? Dude's almost 50 pitching. It's like how does that guy do it? Right? Because that's an average pitcher. And no disrespect. I'm just saying, he's
No,
not throwing
I
100
was
miles
about
an
to
hour.
challenge high school kids right now, whoever ends up listening to this, go watch some Jamie Moyer highlights. He was 82, 86, maybe, in an earlier career, got up a little higher, but I know the game has changed a little bit analytically, but he could pitch, and there was a reason he was so dedicated to his craft.
Damn straight, dude. In his book, man, he talks about seeing a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
And I won't go into that too much, right? But he told me to keep a book, one on the field, one off the field. So there were years that I stayed true to that, right? Remained disciplined, stayed with my process. You're going to hear that a whole bunch throughout your career, I'm sure, whoever's listening. But it's like the years that I stayed dedicated to that were the years that I actually shined. For whatever reason, man. Maybe I was more engaged. Maybe I cared more. Maybe it was like, hey, I know I'm putting in the time and effort aside from the physicality, the physical aspects of it, man. But he said, keep a notebook, right? He had a notebook of the lineup he was facing, right? What pitches worked to get the guys out, right? What counts, what situations it was. He had a second notebook. He told me this, right? I tried to do it. It's tough, man. How you feel that day, what your routine was before you even got to the field, what time you woke up, what time you went to bed, what you had for dinner, what you had for breakfast, what kind of coffee you had, what time you had it, what time
That's
you rolled to
hard.
the field, how your infield outfield would,
Yeah.
how'd your arm feel, right? Just little shit like that. How'd your body feel when you're going through, your bullpens and stuff? Like he would do that, man. And like that guy was throwing 80, 85,
Yeah.
getting guys out repeatedly. And people are like, dude, I don't understand it. Well, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't understand it, right? Because it's the stuff behind the scenes. It's the mental edge. How are you going to get that mental edge? By doing some crazy stuff like that.
Well, speaking of the notebooks and stuff, by the way, it's West Point. The guy went to
Okay.
West Point.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
But there was we talked about this briefly, but there was that documentary style series on the PGA golfers.
Okay.
Full
Yeah.
Swing on Netflix. There's a guy named Matt Fitzpatrick who's top 20 in the world right now, top 10, I think. But he has logged every one of his shots, whether it's driving range, in an actual event. He has like hundreds and hundreds of notebooks. Like, I mean, even when he was like 10 years old, and he goes into his mom's house to show this like filmmaker these bins, and he pulls down these bins. He's like, oh, this is when I was 9 years old and I was on the junior world, and oh, here's par 4 right here. And he has a notebook of every little thing. And the guy's a madman, but his brother, this is a good point, his brother is a PGA, he's a pro as well. but he's ranked like 1,234th or something. And his brother's a good golfer, but he doesn't do the stuff that his brother Matt does. So Matt Fitzpatrick doesn't necessarily have that many friends, doesn't necessarily have the nights out, the crazy maybe girlfriend experience, whatever.
Yeah.
I can't go into that specifically, but he is top 10 in the world. His brother, same genetics, same background. Jose Canseco told me that. I got to meet him briefly. This is transition to something else. Yeah, so Jose Canseco did steroids, right? But so did his brother. Same genetics, same that, but one of them put in different type of work, and the other one put in a
Yeah.
different. So that's like, if you want to be dedicated, taking the time, maybe you sacrifice some nights out with your buddies, maybe you sacrifice some other stuff, but it's worth it.
100%, dude. 100%.
It could, I mean, like I had the elbow surgery, I had all this, dude. It's fleeting. It might be here 1 minute, it might be gone the next day.
For sure. Yeah, dude, for sure. Going through my last year, it's I had no idea, didn't have an idea, but just simplifying the game is important. I think,
Yeah,
the mental aspect of things is important. That there's this book to talk about, to touch on the golf thing. There's a book called Fearless Golf that I was reading. Still haven't finished it, man, but I still am big on the mental side of things, the self-help books, the type of, mental adjustments and the attitude and, thinking positively, right?
yeah.
Your thoughts, man. If you have a dark storm cloud over your head at all times and you're woe is me and, you got a poor attitude, you're a poor teammate. I mean,
Well, like I think everything you put in, whether that's food, whatever, affects your overall well-being. So the music you listen to, the books you read, the people you hang out with, the movies you watch, all of that plays a part on your overall well-being. So if you're, drinking Coke and eating pizza all day every day and listening to heavy metal music that's, has a
I get
horrible
it.
message, yeah, it's going to affect you. And I went through that. I got in the stage when I was listening to crazy music and trying to get myself pumped up, and I was like, I'm turning into a butthead.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't healthy for me. But like the game has changed. Like you touched on it a little bit, like right when we started. But there's kids that I give lessons to right now that did not make their high school baseball team, but are going to go play summer ball, and then they might still get signed to go play college. Didn't even play high school baseball. You know,
It's awesome.
so it's crazy, and that's where I want to let high school or young kids know that just because I'm working with a kid right now, Griffin Contreras, if you ever listen to this, phenomenal kid, really good basketball player, did not make his high school team this year. He went and did this kind of little velocity program. He showed up the day he got cut. Day he got cut from his high school baseball team. Showed up to get a lesson that night from me. He goes, "Hey man, I just got cut." His dad called me on the way home, all this stuff. But I was like, the fact that you're here right now, we don't even know necessarily when your next outing is going to be, tells me more about you as a human
Yeah,
being and as a man than any how you can go pitch 7 innings and give up 1 run, whatever. But that kid wanted to get better. He didn't want to have that feeling anymore. And I think that right there separates the good from the bad. That
absolutely.
feeling of getting your ass kicked, do you want to feel that again? Are you okay with that? Are you content with that? Or do you want that to be once every, a couple times a year?
Yeah, that makes sense, man. Makes sense. So let's switch subjects here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Switch pace for a little bit. Obviously, it still pertains to baseball. Just a little switch here from the mental side to kind of the overall health of your body, the overall health of a baseball player, right? That's what our expertise is in, lack of a better term. It's what our
Yeah.
experience is in. Is it bad or is it good, do you think, to focus on baseball year round as a young developing high school player? Do you think it's good to do that year round, and just focus solely on baseball? And did you do that?
Me personally, no. I don't think it's good, and I didn't do it. I played basketball. I took vacations. I There's times I didn't even pick up a baseball, and especially when I was playing professionally after 145 game season and full season, I would come home after 120 innings, and I might not pick up a baseball. Like seriously, not even pick up a baseball for months. And then when it was time to get back to it, I got back to it. But I always tell 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, high school kids, play as many sports as you can. It's going to develop,
Everything.
everything. But if it's a 17, 18-year-old kid that's got a scholarship or a chance to get a scholarship at University of Texas or something, and he's like, "Hey, should I go out for my basketball season this year?" I might say no. Like I love the fact that you want to go do that and support your teammates, but you have, there's two sides to it.
For sure. 100%. I didn't do that either, man. I dabbled a little in football.
Yeah,
Tried to do basketball, wrestled a little bit, wrestled.
there you
And
go.
I got in the best shape of my life wrestling.
Yeah,
I never would have
these
experienced.
guys are freaks.
Yes, man. Never would have experienced any of that. Would probably never would have developed, right? I never would have developed, at least at that age, the certain type of muscles, certain type of strength, right? The core strength, all that stuff. would have never had endurance, any of that stuff. I would have
Yeah,
never experienced that, had I not dabbled in a different sport. How about what about unplugging, taking a break, an off season? Is that important, both mentally and physically for you? I mean, in general, it kind of plays on this past question. Like how important is that reset period to maybe step away, especially if you didn't have like the year that you were planning on having? And
yeah,
as opposed to saying, crap, man, I didn't have the year that I was planning on having. Let me immediately go into the cage, get some instruction, and just hammer it out until I figure it out. Like, what's your take on that?
same thing. Like I didn't pick up a baseball for a month or two after the season. I didn't think baseball. I didn't watch baseball. If it was October and a team I liked was playing the World Series, I might turn on a game or whatever because I still respect baseball. I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't want to be around it. It's not because I didn't love baseball. Baseball is my everything. But it's because I was so like mentally and physically drained
Yeah,
after
you're
that long of a
consumed.
season. Yeah. That I would like come home and my parents, luckily I had some awesome parents that were willing to accept me back in their house for a month at a time. And I would seriously like just kick my feet up on the couch for at least a week. And I would veg out on some TV show, hang out with
Absolutely,
my
dude.
dog, hang out with my parents, hang out with my family. But no, it was like, yeah, I might reminisce every once in a while about
Yeah,
an outing or something, but
for sure.
I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to. You have to.
What about your arm, dude? Like, don't you need to give that a break? Like,
Yeah,
not even just the mental aspect of things. You're on go year round.
that's changed a lot too. But I've been working, or I'm around these kids that are going down to like the ranch in Texas. It's a big academy, right? They're these kids are 12 years old throwing 80 miles an hour, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But do you want to be the best 12-year-old, or do you want to be a kid that gets drafted at 18, or a kid that gets a full ride scholarship somewhere? And all these parents go, well, we want both. And I'm like, what's more important? We've talked about this briefly, but I played on the best select travel ball team in the state of Washington when I was 13 years old. I got to play right field every other game. I was undersized. I was immature. It took me a long time to develop and grow. I love being on that team. Me and one other kid played college baseball off that team, and I was the only one to play professionally. There's some man child,
Yeah,
just grown ass dudes on that team, crushing home runs and stuff. A year later, they got into football or they got into girls or whatever.
yeah,
And they were done. So a lot of these parents too, if there's any parents ever listening to this, be careful. Be your kid's biggest asset, be their biggest support, a shoulder to cry on, whatever. But don't burn them out. I
for
got some
sure.
parents right now that I need to have that conversation with.
Makes sense. Makes sense, dude. It's like so. I'm thinking back to when I was slumping, or when I was just absolutely I didn't have a clue, right? So you show up every day ready to go to war. You're ready to go to war with your teammates, man. You guys are wearing the same jersey, and you're ready to just take on the other team. When things aren't going your way, or when you're slumping, at least in my personal experience, my manager would sit me, right? If I had a good relationship with my manager, which I did, in my AAA years, and as I started getting closer, to the pinnacle, to the top, you get to the AA, AAA, it starts getting serious, dude. It starts
Yeah.
getting serious. That's serious baseball. Um, And so, you go through a rough series, you go through a rough week, and it's like, hey, this guy needs some time off. This guy needs a game off. This guy needs a series off. I've gotten multiple days back to back to back, like off, and it was pre-planned because I
Yeah.
was slumping so hard.
And take that as like a, hey, let's reset. Don't
Dude,
take it
it's a
as like a,
blessing. It's a
yeah, don't take
blessing,
it as
dude.
like, oh my gosh, this guy's mad at me and I'm never gonna make it. Because you let the little guy in here, it's over.
That's right.
And find something that works for you as a player. I remember driving to spring training at 5 in the morning with my roommate at the time, and it sounds a little funny, but I got really into motivational speaking. I would listen to motivational speaking on the way, and my roommate was like, "Please turn this off." And I was like, "Hey, whose car are we in?"
That's right.
And he's like, "Your car." But I would go through that motivational speaking throughout the day, and it helped me.
I like that. I like that. What about this is probably one of our last little things we'll touch on, man. What about the benefits of getting outside instruction or outside guidance? Maybe from a hitting facility, maybe from a dude that can give pitching lessons, right? Like yourself.
Yeah,
What do you think are the added benefits or the positive things that come out of that, right? Maybe getting a separate set of eyes on you, maybe getting
yeah.
taught different mechanics, maybe different mindset, like different approach, everything. Like, what would you say? Uh, would you recommend that to, let's say, your kid right now? Say you have a 15, 16-year-old kid who's
Yeah, it'd be different for me and it'd be different for you because we have that experience. So if I took my child to go get instruction, I could filter through some of the shit, right? So if I thought my kid, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the end all be all and I know everything about baseball, and there's always stuff that's coming out, right? But I believe in outside instruction. I believe that there's unbelievable teachers at the game out there, unbelievable people that can help you not only become a better baseball player, but a better man. But I think you need to be careful of who you go see. And parents that do not know, that's hard. That's a fine line, right? Some parents come to me for instruction and I say, I played 9 years professional baseball, but I could be teaching little Johnny to kick the ball with his right foot. And a mom would be being like, oh, well,
way to
looks,
go.
yeah, looks good to me. So you might have to have an idea and you might have to, one, you're probably paying decent money for it.
Ugh,
And two, this guy's gonna be around you quite a bit, whether it's softball, soccer, whatever it is. They're gonna impact your child negatively or positively. And as a parent, you got to be that kind of middleman. That's
a
gonna,
filter
yeah,
for sure. Do your due diligence on who you're paying all this money to have instruct your kid.
that's hard. If my kid said, "Hey, I really want to go play tennis," I've watched enough tennis to understand that you got to hit it pretty hard and return the ball over the net. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
hard. You got to trust in the education you're receiving. And nowadays we got this thing called Google, and you can Google someone's playing career. But even then, like Andy McKay didn't have the craziest record as a coach, right?
Yeah.
But he's everyone that I've ever talked to about Andy McKay says he's the man. He's
Same.
phenomenal.
Same.
Junior college guy. Didn't have this crazy experience that a lot of these guys do.
Sacramento,
My
right?
pitching coach in Double A, unbelievable human being. Maybe not the best pitching coach. Played 15 years in the big leagues. Not the best coach. Love him. So it's
100%.
hard. That's a tricky question because
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Was thinking about that, man. I figured
Yeah.
I'd throw that out there. I just, man, just let's see. Yeah, we're running out here, but I just kind of wanted to so we touched on, the benefits of maybe taking a step back, decompressing,
Mhm.
whether that's, for a series or a week or an off season. It might not be beneficial to do year-round throwing. It
No.
might not be beneficial to do, year-round swinging. I know for a fact my wrists, my forearms, like my hands would get torn up just from, you know, hitting with batting gloves on and just taking 4 ABs a night.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
the wear and tear. I mean, if you get hurt early, I'm it's not, it's tough. But I wanted to probably just leave off with this idea. It's like when players are reporting for spring training, you get the veterans, the big time players. These guys are reporting for spring training. I mean, what is that first week or two for? It's for them to get back into shape. It's
Yeah.
for the pitchers to start ramping up, getting back to game reps. Dude, you start spring training, boom, starts. You're not going the length. You're not going the full game, pitching 9 innings, 100 pitch shutout. Like, you ease into it, you ramp into it because of that time off, that time that you kind of separated from, the daily grind, mentally and physically, dude. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
I can promise you this: I worked my ass off every off season, and no matter how hard I worked, I could not train my feet to be in spikes in the initial week of spring training. Running from field to field, hey, go shag here. You got a bullpen over here. You're gonna go do
Oh.
PFPs, whatever. My feet that first week or two of spring training were so beat up.
It's like lasagna.
Yeah, but
Got
like
that
I
lasagna
worked
foot,
out.
dude.
Yeah, I worked out hard all off season. I ran. I did everything I could. There's things that you just can't. I mean, unless you're gonna put on spikes and just run around your neighborhood. You know? Yeah,
Quick
those big
clap.
league guys have a different preparation, and you see how they go about it. There's some of those guys that are freaks, and like Max Scherzer. I've heard so many crazy stories about Max Scherzer and his bullpens. Like only like 3 people can even be in his bullpens when he's throwing. My uncle was one of his pitching coaches, and how like diligent he is with his bullpens is insane.
He's doing things on purpose, with purpose. Like
Yeah.
he is doing things to do them, not just go through the motions.
No, he'll put like one of those ball bags, like that holds the balls on
Yeah.
top of the plate, and he'll be like curveball, 0-2, bag, and then everyone in the bullpen, there might be like 4 guys in there, has to say bag. So you'll hear bag, 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 and he'll go through his mechanics and throw a curveball and hit the bag, and he's like, yes. But he's gonna be a Hall of Famer.
I love that, man. I love that,
Yeah.
dude. All right, man. Well, that's all I got. That's all. You got anything else? I mean, anything you want to touch on? We got 7 minutes left.
No, it's hard. I mean, I want to be able to give whatever high school kid, college kid, professional, whoever, whether you're just a fan of baseball or just a fan of sports, whatever. I want to give them all the advice that I can, right? But some of that comes from experience. Some of that comes through hardship. Some of that comes from getting their butt kicked. And I want to be able to set a good example of what it is to have mental toughness. But some of the stuff you went through just in life in general, some of the stuff I went through kind of molded us to be better at it than some of our counterparts, right?
100%.
So this 12-year-old kid that's struggling on the mound, his dad comes up to me and he's like, hey, what advice do you have for him? I'm like, honestly, this might not be the worst thing for him right now. He's been God's gift to pitching since he was 9 years old, right? You've told me how good he was and how great he is his whole life. And now he's dealing with a little adversity. Let's see
Might be
how
good
bad
for
he
him.
wants it. Yeah.
That's right.
So
That's right.
like you're the same way. We want to give everyone the tools to get better, right? And we can. I think we both have that ability. But
I
some
love
of it's
that.
got to be, some of it's got to be like, how bad do you want it?
Yeah,
You
for
get your
sure.
butt kicked. You're gonna get back up.
Makes sense to me, dude. Just yeah. If I could give any type of just last word advice, man, just breathe. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
breathe. Like just slow it down. Control what you can control and just breathe, dude. You know? I don't know.
Yeah. It sounds hippie, man. Just go outside. Take a deep breath. Look at the grass. Look at the
Dude,
clouds above you.
my mental okay. Adam Bonaro. So yeah, he was
Mental guy.
he was one of my mental guys in Seattle. Still is there. And I remember just going through it.
Mhm.
Oh, just going through it. And I remember just showing up early, doing some, meditation and
Yeah.
walking around the outfield, walking around the whole stadium in my bare feet, dude, getting grounded. Getting grounded. How do you figure? Man,
Yeah.
it's crazy world out there. Maybe if you haven't tried, taking your mental health serious and meditating. I mean, there's apps, dude. I got a
Oh
couple
yeah.
apps, right? I think it's a huge benefit, just all around, man. Whatever you want to get out of it, you could probably get out of it.
Yeah. I used to, I mean, it's not the best advice, but those dog days of the summer, right? July, August, season's coming to an end, and I'd be out in this is center field jagging balls before a game, and I'd be like, guys, I'm losing my mind. And I'd just be screaming. No one was listening, but it was just like me getting stuff off my chest.
That's right.
And I'd go in after my, after BP, after my conditioning, and go sit in my locker and be like, all right, well, cool. You
Yeah.
know,
Little lighter right now. A little lighter.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta get out of you. You walking around the stadium or take your cleats off one day and just go feel the grass.
Yeah.
Lay
Maybe
down
do
there.
something different.
Yeah.
Switch it up, dude.
Yeah. Just never take it for granted. A lot of these high school kids in the academy I'm involved in, I could tell that I'm like, why are you here? What are you working on?
Yeah. Just going through the motions
The
and
ones that are, there's the most dedicated kid at that academy I work at is like 11 years old. It's insane. I'm like, okay, that kid's probably going to go farther than any of these kids because,
having fun with it.
yeah.
I love it. All right, man. Well, that's all we got, dude. So
Yeah, well,
appreciate
hopefully we get some questions and stuff because I think that's where we benefit people the most. Is we got
make
20
it
years
personal.
combined professional experience. You got big league time. We have so many stories to touch on, but
100%, dude.
you really can't just word vomit all of them. So
No, no. Got
hopefully
to be
someone can
specific.
watch this and we can help people.
100%. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and David, man, thank you for your time. Congratulations on the engagement. I got to hear about those veiny details, man.
I got you.
All right, brother. I'll catch you again this weekend.
All right, talk to you later. See
All
you.
right.
Bye.